Issues and Challenges, organized by Department of Education in collaboration with IQAC of Bamanpukur, Humayun, Kabir, Mahavidyalaya. Welcome all. The theme of the webinar is relevant in the current global situation. It will be useful to overcome new challenges and define a new dimension in dealing with the situation arising out of COVID 19. I'm pleased to share that many distinguished guests has honored us with their valuable presence today. Professor Mormon Mukhopadhyay, Chairman, Educational and Technological Management Association, ETMA, and former Professor and Director, NIPA, New Delhi, India. Professor Rekha B. Kaul, Dean, Faculty Humanities and Associate Professor, School of Education, Curtin University, Australia. Professor Nimaichand Maiti, former Professor, Department of Education, University of Calcutta, India. Professor Renu Nanda, Professor and Dean, Faculty of Education, University of Jammu Kashmir, Tavi, India. And so I feel today really honored to welcome all the participants from across the country, from different universities and colleges, for taking a keen part in this program. And I would, on behalf of our department, extend my gratitude towards our principal, Sir Dr. S. Biswas, for encouraging us to conduct webinar like this with his valuable suggestions, guidance, given to us whenever we needed and required. Welcome, sir. I am sure that you all will feel enriched with knowledge. I welcome you once again in the webinar and hope you will have a great time ahead. Thank you. Over to Professor Ashish Biswas. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you, Professor Smita Chatterjee, for your welcome speech. Uh, Now, I would like to request our principal sir, Dr. Subhash Vishwas, to give his inaugural speech. Over to you, sir. Over to you, Dr. Subhash Vishwas, the Honorable Principal of BHK Mahavidyalaya.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are perfectly audible, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Yes, sir.
So today it is a pious moment for us, all the stakeholders of Bamanpukur Humayun Kabir Mahavidyalaya, to have such a platform where we have a scope to have a number of themes about learning and environment for the 21st century, issues and challenges. Uh, I must uh, congratulate all the uh, organizers as well as our chief patron, that is ICSSR, who has patronized us to organize the webinar. I have a little power or a little capacity to uh, to say a few words about the experts, those who are participating today. Actually, all of them are the stalwarts in their respective fields and in the entire fields of education. Professor Mormon Mukhopadhyay is one role. Uh, Similarly, Professor Rekha Kaul, Professor N.C. Maiti, Professor Renu Nanda, and others who were assembled here to deliver their important speech. And we are also here eagerly waiting for having a very interesting note. I am sure that we will have everything else in a nutshell in the keynote address of Professor Mormon Mukhopadhyay, who is well known in the field of this education, particularly uh, about this topic of this 21st century. I'm saying so because he's now retired, but he has gathered the experience in such a manner so that he can foresee the future. And in this way, we are having a very interesting keynote address from a person who has actually the power to foresee the future, and he will deliver the lecture. So far as my idea is about this new learning environments in the 21st century, as I am working here in a remote college as a principal, um, I have a few words to say. Uh, Definitely, it is true that the new context of learning, new learning environments have become digital, whether we have the capacity, whether we like it or not. But the thing is that the students are growing up as a digital student, and they are doing well. And we are also today in a webinar in a digital form. I have a few ideas that I understand that the new learning environments in this current century is definitely cross-disciplinary. The earlier idea that people wanted to say that one become expert in a single dimension, it has been over. And nowadays we are in a cross-disciplinary approach. The idea that the lifelong education has become changed in a way that actually it has become lifelong, that we have little scope to minimize our chance. That means every day we have to have new learning experiences, so it has become actually a lifelong education. Similarly, the early ideas about the learning about, quote unquote, has changed to learning to be, quote unquote. So actually, we are giving our students the idea that have to take the notion of what learning to be, not this what is learning about anything else. What you will be after the course, and that is important. And similarly, uh, uh, we have a number of challenges and issues also. So we have to deal with today. The most important challenge for me as a principal of a college is that uh, the entire the learning situation has changed. It is similarly applicable for the learning institutions. The thing is that what the learning institutions themselves are ready to change. And in this 21st century, we have to change the learning institution itself. Student has to change their learning criteria, writing learning curriculum, but it is not sufficient. The sufficient will be whenever the institutions will change themselves, the new learning models will be there. Uh, uh, a debate may be that whether the relationship between amateur and expert will become higher. The hiatus between this amateur and expert will be bigger. It is true that the passion will be there, amateur ideas will be there, but it is also true that professionalism has become also a very important thing. So in this uh, uh, amateurs and versus professionalism debate will be a big challenge in this 21st century. So what I have said is that the learning about and learning to be has become the major challenge. Uh, Another important uh, challenge or issue, I think, that the earlier idea of demand full situation uh, has uh, has changed the traditional supply push situation. And nowadays, the early supply push. For example, I am from a college where there is a huge supply of personnel with full of skills with fishing. But this supply push um, has somewhat created a problem, as most of them has engaged in these activities without considering the actual demand. Rather than fishing, there is a number of demand. So demand push criteria is also important. Apart from this, your supply push thing. The most important, I must say that in the 21st century, learning scape has changed. A hybrid model of learning has developed. The power of passion-based participation is also important. Similarly, with the core curriculum for teaching and rigorous thinking of argumentation to that field. Designing such a curriculum definitely requires elegant ideas, minimalism. A number of transactions of ideas are necessary to have appropriate idea. It is implicit in this new learning scape that infinite number of communities, I say niche communities, uh, are there on the net. And from this net, we have to have the ideas. The digitalization has been an important figure. Similarly, for the students, the idea of the early community has changed. The campus-based idea has also changed. The fact is that the early idea was that inside this institution everything was possible, but nowadays learning outside is also similarly important. I am sure that a number of students, those who are participating here, they understand that the learning from outside is also necessary. Apart from this, learning from this inside. So whenever it is a question of learning from outside, it becomes in a macro sense, and all institutions become similar. So definitely, all institutions have learning from inside idea, but all institutions has to imbibe learning from outside. And a type of similarity, a type of link is necessary. The idea that we have to have the cross-disciplinary approaches, particularly education as an institution as well as a curriculum, allows this cross-disciplinary approaches. That's why we are here. We are having very interest in this very webinar. I must congratulate our technical experts, advice those who have organized this webinar, and I think that these two they will be a successful and fruitful discussions from among the participants, experts, and we'll definitely have very interesting sessions next 2 days. We inaugurate the webinar and welcome all participants from present and absent in this webinar. Thank you all. Thank you. Over to Ashish.
Thank you very much, sir, for through your inaugural speech. You set the tone of the on today's webinar. In the first day of today's webinar on learning environment for the 21st century, organized by the Department of Education in collaboration with the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Bamanpukur Humayun Mahavidyalaya under the aegis of Indian Council of Social Science Research, Eastern Regional Center, Kolkata. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our today's esteemed keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Mormor Mukhopadhyay sir, who is the author of Total Quality Management in Education, which was published by Sage publication in 2020, Quality Management in Higher Education, published again by Sage in 2016, Leadership for Institution Building in Education, published by Shipra Publication in 2012. Professor Morman Mukhopadhyay started as assistant teacher in Udang High School and superannuated as a professor in NIEPA. He was involved in
Sorry,
policy making.
sorry to interrupt you, Professor Vishwas.
Huh?
Professor Mormon Mukherjee has not joined yet. Perhaps he
Okay.
will join within 1 or 2 minutes. Could you please wait for 1 or 2 minutes for introduction?
But he was there when I started.
I am listening to him.
He was
My
there. He
Wait.
was
video
there.
and audio was muted, but I am
Okay.
listening to him.
He was there. He was there. He
Continue.
was there. He
Continue.
was there
Yes.
when I
Continue.
started.
Continue. Please.
So shall I start again? Sorry, sir, for the inconvenience. Professor Mormon Mukhopadhyay started as assistant teacher in Udang High School and superannuated as professor in NIEPA.
Choprita?
He was involved in policy making and planning at the national level. He was represented in India in many international forums: UNESCO, UNICEF, World Bank, British Council, USAID, Commonwealth of Learning, ISRO, IBM, Microsoft, Intel, NIIT, Xerox, and others. Consulted Professor Mukhopadhyay. He has authored and published extensively. His books, Quality Management in Education, Quality Management in Higher Education, Leadership for Institution Building, have global readership. He has just completed his book project, Educational Technology for Teachers. His school improvement in primary education in a cluster of villages in Howrah was publicized by Government of India in HLG meeting in Brazil. After commissioning an evaluation by Tata Institute of Social Sciences,
I'm not comfortable.
Mumbai, the case was published by Stockholm University, Sweden. Uh, Professor Mormon Mukhopadhyay is also a internationally acclaimed speaker, and thank you, sir, for being the esteemed keynote speaker in today's webinar and making us privileged. Over to you, sir, for your keynote speech.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. All right. See, this one is it is showing all the faces here. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And you have got a good crowd of 67 people right now. Should I start?
Yes, please, sir.
Okay. Share screen. Okay. शेयर स्क्रीन तो हो नहीं रहा है. Share. Okay. All right. We are talking about 21st century learning environment. Firstly, that learning environment in 21st century is an extensively researched, written and discussed theme since 1990s. Because 21st century started on 2000, 2001 itself, 2000. So there's a 30-year long history of writing. And these are some of the references that you can find. Those of you who are a little more interested, you can also see there are a lot of slides in the slides here. So that when you want to make a presentation, you can clip those slides and use it. Now, first important point is the 21st century talking about technology. My viewpoint is a little different, that any of these things, any environment is first built by people. For me, it is walking on two legs. One is 21st century learner, and second is a technological. The first important point that we need to understand is the attributes of 21st century learners. They are not us, they are very different. First important thing is they are.
Hello, I think we have lost Professor Mukherjee.
Actually, it's showing it's muted. The audio of sir is muted.
Okay. So please ADP or please over the call, please contact him personally.
It is
Yes, right now
saying.
it's okay.
Okay.
It is saying your internet connection is unstable and has been muted by the host.
No, sir, I haven't muted you.
But you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. There might be some technical difficulties. Sir, please continue with your presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Hello.
Sir, please make him a phone call if possible.
Is he there in the meeting?
Yes, sir is there in the meeting, but the audio of sir actually this is showing muted. I think there is some technical problem. Please bear with us and give some time, 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Please bear with us because this is a technical problem. Okay. Ashish, you tell. Okay, it's okay now. Now it's okay.
Hello, sir. Hello. Sir, am I audible to you? Professor Morma Mukhopadhyay, am I audible to you? Hello.
I think he is having internet issues.
I think so. Hello, sir. Hello. Am I audible to you, sir? Sir, you are visible, but your sir, your screen is visible.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear
Okay.
you.
So I was talking about 10 attributes of 21st century learners. Learning. Firstly, that learning is learner-centered. It is no more teacher-centered. It's collaborative, technology integrated, online learning, inquiry-based, hands-on, opportunities of creative expression, problem solving, personalized, and data rich. Important point is this is where 21st century learning is different from the previous centuries. Teacher is no more at the prime. Teacher is a learning organizer. Self-assessment and peer assessment has been found to be the most powerful tool for learning. Reflective learning, embedded assessments are the techniques. In other words, the kind of things that we are currently using are of very little consequence. Given this learning scenario, the 21st century learners have got these 10 different attributes. They are much more smart learners. It may not hurt you, but actually they are more intelligent than all of you and me. Because if you go by Cattell's decadal intelligence, your children, your younger generation are more intelligent. If you go by brain research, because of extreme or external stimulations that they are receiving, their brains are receiving, many more brain neurons are being excited. New synapses are being created, and that is creating new brain pattern. Today, intelligence is equated with the quickness with which brain patterns can be created. So their brain pattern is much faster in terms of creation. Younger generation, as you can see at your own homes, they want to decide what and how they want to learn. They are not prepared to accept what adults say. They focus mainly on making a difference rather than earning to survive or to live happily ever after. This attitudinal shift is very important. They confidently assert freedom for creation. They want to do the way they want. They love risk and challenge, ready to fail and innovate, ready to fail, to innovate and create. Majority of us, we don't want to innovate and create. I remember the day I joined my college service for the first day, on 1st August 1969, first advice to me was, don't try to innovate, just cover the syllabus. I told my head of the department, yes, sir, because I know that he will never enter the class. Class is mine, and outside he's my boss. They are adept at connecting and collaborating. They can collaborate with many more people, and with the technological development, it is seamless. Explore, experiment, discover solution to problems rather than accepting the solution given by the adults. master and integrate technology. They can integrate technology very quickly. I have not seen any teacher so far when she finds it problem in the class, calls up another teacher in some other college to find the solution, but I've seen problems. Now, this is different. Unburdened cognitive overload. At the moment, we are trying to remember a whole range of things which is not necessary. For that, the technology is there, but they unburden, and once they unburden, they are able to think. At the moment, a very large majority, or exceptions apart, we don't think. We burden with information. They are not prisoners of geography because they don't know where will they serve. They know they are global citizen. Any one of you who have fancy for reading, Prisoners of Geography is actually a book by Tim Marshall. It's a beautiful book. So anyone who has some fancy for it may like to look at it. There's the new technology, two new norm of learning, artificial intelligence, reality. So all these things that you can read on the screen are the technology that is going to change or characterize the 21st century learning. The agenda of 21st century learning is create lifelong self-learners, not a learned person. Learned persons are all museum pieces. In Calcutta, we have the National Museum, they should be sent there. Whose job is to be the outside on the street are those who are self-learners. They do not mastery of physics or mastery of psychology, mastery of the art of learning, because whatever you learn today, tomorrow it is outdated. So are the 21st century learners will be able to learn the art of learning. Challenge is improving conceptual. Everybody, the conceptual complexity is, majority of the people have got low conceptual complexity. They can think in binaries. ये हो सकता है, नहीं हो सकता है. Whenever I work in my village cluster, first important thing is they will say, ये तो नहीं हो सकता है. The question is, if you improve the cognitive structure continuously. A lot of people tell me the majority of programs or college principals and others. The first question is that all levels are filled with complete information, and then it slowly goes up to the abstract. Today you can see when the policy has come, many people are finding it very difficult to make sense of it because it has a lot of abstraction. And the third challenge is digital webinars in West Bengal, including vice chancellors. There's a complete misconception of the concept of digital divide. Majority of the people think digital divide is divide between availability or access to technology. Sorry. There are 3 points of, one is attitude, digital skill, and access to devices. Unfortunately, on attitude, students are better off than the adult elders. The vice chancellor, principals, their own parents, attitudinally. The people who have the power have poor attitude. Your children are far better off on your smartphone than you people. Again, on digital skills, students are ahead of their teachers, parents, adults, principal, etc. When it comes to access to devices, that is the only place where adults have got better because they have the money. Students are, that's, but interestingly, because of their attitudinal strength and skill strength, they manage it. So adults remain where they are. The important point that we need to realize that digital divide is very unfavorable to the decision makers. It's not a problem for the children. It's not a problem for the students. They find out somehow. What I'm proposing, I call it 5W model of 21st century learning. Whenever, whatever, whichever, wherever. When I say whenever, it means any time during the day. It's not necessarily somebody has to come at 10 o'clock to the college or to the school and go back at 5 o'clock. Anytime, late in the night, early morning, whenever it suits. Anytime during the year. And anytime in life. For example, it's very common. 99% of doctorates in the colleges and university, they have done only one time research and that's over. They can learn anytime in life, because if you go by Ricardo Semla's prediction, that longevity will be 150 years. Now, what will you do with 150 years? This book is called 7-Day Weekend. If some of you would like to read, please read it. What they want. STEM, hash, STEM and hash, you are all familiar. Multidisciplinary or phenomena-based learning. I mean, right now, higher education in India is बहुत परेशान है that policy has taken multidisciplinary learning. They're saying, what about learning economics? I say, why should they learn economics? Take, for example, the flood in the Brahmaputra basin is an annual reality, devastating reality. Geography, sociology, demography, what? Now the whole question is the opportunity. You can learn STEM, mathematics, technology, engineering, whatever you want. You can learn HAS, humanities, social sciences, but you can also learn phenomena-based learning, which is the new recommendation and policy. Whichever. You can learn offline, like what we do in our classes, face-to-face. You can learn online, you can do blended. Partly online, partly face-to-face. So the options are totally open now. Who is going to be teacher? Whomever. They can be blue colored, yellow collar, white collar, and open collar. Again, you will find in the policy it has been mentioned that they can go to a craftsman, an artisan, a medical doctor. Teacher is not the only person to teach, because teacher, I mean, for example, in the field, in B.Ed, you rarely come across a good teacher educator who can actively communicate. They give a demonstration lesson to prove how to teach. What are they doing throughout the year? That means they are not doing what they should do, or they cannot do what they are now demonstrating to be done. They can only manage one period like that. Fourth one is wherever. They can be in the local institution. Anywhere in the country, you can keep on collecting badges, take nano courses. Anywhere in the world, you can take courses from, for example, Coursera, FutureLearn, Udemy. These are all typically Harvard, Stanford, UK Open University. So we are actually taking courses from Stanford. So there is no limit to it at all. Important point is, which I have mentioned earlier, the agenda is lifelong self-learner. And what is the output is mastering the art of learning. This is my 5W model. To read more, you can open my blog. And this is my blog in which I have this whole article. It's just a 6-minute read, which you can actually see. कहाँ पे? They are not able to find. Okay. It's not going. What do we do? Okay. You have been sharing. Which one? Just a second.
No problem, sir. No problem.
Yeah. देखो तो है. Is it showing?
Yes, sir, it is showing.
Okay. So what I thought, I'll conclude it with this beautiful couplet by Professor M.N. Palsane. कहते तो आप है कि हम किसी को कुछ सिखाते थे, सीखने वाले खुद ही सीखते थे, हम तो सिर्फ ख्वाब बेचते थे. The 21st century learning will be case of ख्वाब बेचना, selling the dreams. Students will learn by themselves because they are far more capable. Finally, those of you who are serious need to go and look at this Futures of Education. UNESCO's International Commission is currently on session. They are working on Futures of Education, learning to become. So, despite I'm talking on this subject, but I'll still prefer to wait for what the global collective wisdom brings in. I stop here for any questions that you may have. Yeah.
Please, from the audience, if you have any question to Professor Bamanpukur, you can ask, unmute yourself and ask. Any question from the audience?
Hello.
Hello, yes, you are audible.
Yes.
Yes, this is Renu Mandal, research scholar from Department of Education, Vishwa Bharati. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am. You are
yeah.
audible. You are audible, ma'am.
Sir, though it is very true that today we are living in 21st century, the era of digitalization. So my question is like, for many of the teachers and students, they have a fear like if technology comes, is already, it has entered in the era in the
Not
education.
audible. Can't hear you.
कितने परसेंट हो गया क्यूआर सर? जरा विंडो पे जाके देखना दूसरी वाली, उस पर
Principal will explain it.
27% हुआ था इतनी देर में 15
Hello. Hello.
I couldn't get the question, previous question.
Please, Ranumandal ma'am, Ranumandal madam, please ask your question again to Professor Mohammed Mukhopadhyay. Jyoti Khare, please mute yourself. Ranumandal madam, could you ask your question again?
It would be really helpful if you can ask your questions through chats, because audibility,
So please
there's no.
put your question on chat. Uh, Professor Mukhopadhyay will not be staying with us for long. So if you have any question, please you can ask.
Yeah, I'm not able to get the question. If somebody can help me to get the question, I'll try.
Okay, sir. Definitely, sir. Ranu Mandal, madam, please ask your question. You are asking a question to Professor Mukhopadhyay. Am I audible to you? Or anyone else who want to ask a question to Professor Mukhopadhyay? Hello. Hello.
I think there is a technical problem,
Hmm.
so you should go ahead.
Okay. Sir, right now there might be some practical problem connecting to the audio of the of Rani Mondal and others. We'll collect the questions from them, and if we can send you through mail, will it be possible for you to answer us back?
You're always saying your internet connection is not proper.
Hello, am I audible to you, sir? Hello.
Hmm?
Hello, am I audible to you, sir, Professor Mukhopadhyay?
Yeah, the your computer.
There are problems from our viewers.
Not getting. Huh.
There are problems from the viewer. Sir, there is a question for you from Ranu Mandal. She asked, "Will technology
Huh.
replace teacher one day? Will technology replace teacher one day?"
Okay. Uh, I'll use two different words. Sir Arthur Clarke, who is a very well-known writer, he said, if a machine can replace a teacher, let that be. Second is, technology integrating teachers will definitely replace technology non-integrating teachers. Because teacher's job is no more to teach, because whatever you know, machine knows much better than that. What machine does not know is how to inspire. So human beings will be needed, जो मैंने पहले ही बताया था, to sell the dream. Human beings will be needed as a dream merchant, not as a merchant of information. My own understanding is teacher can never be replaced if the teacher is worth a teacher. And this is a very common question. I mean, if I get 100 questions, this is 90. And that is the complexity of conceptual complexity is getting limited. Yeah, what is the next question?
Sir, a question from my end. Can I ask you, sir, the question? My question to you. I have a question to you, sir.
Yeah.
Can virtual, sir, nowadays we are taking so many online classes. So there is a sense that it might continue in the future. So my question is, can virtual mode of class replace the face-to-face teaching? Uh, And
My first request would be, you are all young people. Why are you restricting it to local things? Why can't you think global? The whole problem is the moment we come back to Kolkata and some gully, we miss out the global scenario. You must rise much above that one. Online education has its own strength. Face-to-face education has its own. It is not competing with one another. Our biggest problem is we see everything as a competition rather than cooperation, collaboration. Can you take a Coursera course from your college? Can you take a Stanford course or Harvard course from your college? Can you take, you only want to learn diabetes, can you take a course? You want to learn only how to dribble a football, can you take a course? You have to please change. We are in a different horizon. Why should we be so nostalgic about what we are doing? If what we are doing well, let us continue. Let us exploit the full opportunity. Today, go to OER, Open Education Resource. You can access material written by the best of the authors in the world. My suggestion to particularly younger generation would be, you have to learn to rise above the localiteness. They are not competing. Online education is online education, offline education. Something is good in offline, something is good in online. For example, when I would do practicals, skill development, maybe you go to offline. When you want to build up knowledge, go to online. Haven't you seen, if this college had to invite me physically, how much they would have spent on me? My air travel, my stay, my whatever honorarium, and how much I had to waste myself. You ask me 40 minutes, I'm available on 40 minutes. I'm not wasting time on journey. I will not go to Orthodox college and come back. I'll go to Howrah. So online has saved me, online has saved your college.
definitely, sir.
Try
Definitely.
to understand the difference.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Today you are having me, you are having Renu, you are having people from all over. You could not have done it.
Yes, sir. Uh,
And also, all of you are sitting at home. So many of you are not putting on full dress because only this much is visible. You are saving on your laundry.
yes, sir. That is the beauty, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It clears my doubt. Our next question is from Manam Nivasulu. Uh, he asked, "How do you create an innovative learning environment?
How do you see it?
How do we create an innovative learning environment?"
Okay. First important thing is to create innovative learning environment.
Hmm.
Teacher has to learn how to stop talking. She has to only learn how to create problem for the students. I'll tell you one simple example. All mothers know it. Have you seen how children ask difficult questions to their mother and they cannot answer it?
Yes, sir.
Can the mother become the child? Because many mothers have to discover the answer because it is not written in any answer book. One child asked his mother, the cow eats green grass. How does she give white milk? Where do you find the answer to such a beautiful question? So mother has to learn how to answer the question.
Hello. 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 Sir, am I audible to you? Professor Mahavidyalaya, am I audible to you? Professor Mukhopadhyay, are you there? I think sir is disconnected somehow. Uh, uh, Please, members of the organizing committee, please contact Sir Mukhopadhyay to connect it again.
Okay, I'm doing.
Hmm. Somehow the audio is disconnected. Or the Sir Mukhopadhyay is Professor Mukhopadhyay is disconnected somehow. Please bear with us. There is a technical glitch due to connectivity issues. Professor Mukhopadhyay has been disconnected. Let us bring him in.
He has faced the problem of power cut. Perhaps
Okay.
he will come within 30
Okay,
seconds
okay.
or 1 minute.
So this is also the problem with virtual mode. There are some glitches, technical glitches waiting to happen.
Yes.
Please bear with us. Professor Mukhopadhyay will be joining us shortly. And if you have any other question, you can put it in the chat box, both in
There are some questions from YouTube, and I
YouTube. Yes,
send it to you in
yes,
WhatsApp. Please
I have
see
seen
it.
that. I have seen that.
Okay.
I'll be asking it after Professor Mukhopadhyay join the session, rejoin the session. Please bear with us. There is some technical issues. Professor Mukhopadhyay will be joining us shortly. In the meantime, please put your question in the chat box, both on YouTube live stream and on Zoom platform.
Sir, and my question is?
Please ask it through chat box.
Okay, okay, sure.
My request to all the participants, please, while the speaker are giving their speeches, please keep on putting your questions on the chat box so that we can ask it directly to the esteemed speakers. Mokada, is he joining?
Not yet. Yes, he has joined.
Has he joined?
Yes.
He's not visible yet.
Okay.
Yes, he has joined. Yes, sir.
Any other question? Last
Yes,
question.
sir. Yes, sir. There are lots of questions since you have left.
Okay.
There is a question from SP Malhotra. The question is, just let me check. Just please. The questions
वो
are
12 बजे
pouring.
मेरे से मिलेंगे, मैं उनको दे दूंगा.
There is a question from Bhumika Khanjilal. Sorry, no, he's just please, sir, just. Manam Sri, the previous question was Manam Sri from Manam Srinivasulu. He asked, how do you create an innovative learning environment? You are in the middle of that question.
Yeah, I told you that creating learning environment, firstly, we have to understand children are born creative. That creativity gets deconditioned by our own upbringing. So the teacher need to ask difficult questions so that students start finding solutions. That is the best way. That's how Finland has adopted what they call the phenomena-based learning. How do you solve this problem? For example, you talk to these teacher educators, the moment you say somebody is not doing very well, they will say, okay, remedial learning. Ask students, if तुम्हारे दो classmate is not doing very well, how do you help them? They will find their solution. So creative learning has to be developed by creating opportunities, by creating more and more difficult questions, rather than thinking, oh, ये तो बच्चे हैं कैसे बताएंगे. We need to completely change because they are more creative. Okay, next question.
Next question is from S.V. Malhotra. The question is, what with this type of technology where one thing works and another stops, what type of learning will be there?
इनके सवाल का जवाब मैं नहीं दूंगा बिकॉज 12 बजे उनके साथ ही मेरा मीटिंग है.
अच्छा sir. So we're just sir, there is a question from from a participant in YouTube live. His name is Mayank Kulshetra. He asked, there is a question, somehow he did not put the question. There is another question, sir, from Paramita Sarkar. She asked, what will be the effective replacement of virtual interface in near future? Is it blended or online mode?
First, you ask her whether she is the one whose daughter got IIM admission.
Sir, she's attending through YouTube live, so I cannot ask him directly. Ask her directly. So she has.
Yes, Facebook says her daughter has got admission to IIM Kolkata. So if she is the same person, then we should first congratulate her.
Acha, sir.
Let me tell you that the world today is actually everybody is in blended learning mode. None of us sitting here learn only in one mode. You learn from newspaper, you learn from television, you learn from discussion with your friends. Let us say street politics even. Are you not blending? You are blending mass media with collaborative learning. So blended learning today is no more a kind of a very unusual new thing. Every one of us are in blended learning mode. Yeah.
Sir, another question is from one of the members of the organizing committee, Shivnarayan Verma. He asked, in this modern commercial world, we have plenty of motivational speakers on various TV channels. All of them seems to be dream sellers. Can they too be called teachers in that sense?
Well, first, again, I'll say, don't restrict, when you are on a seminar mode, don't restrict yourself to 24 Ghanta or Anand Bazar or NDTV or etc. That's not the only media. Media is also BBC. Media is also CNN, who still have the independence to say what they want to say. Whole question today is, the concept of teaching has to be completely eliminated. Concept is learning. What the students pick up from there is the learning. For example, one of the beautiful things that has happened during this period, all my time on seeing news has been saved because there is no news. So I don't open television channel to read the news. Because if you open, you see behavior, you see misbehavior. If you want the news, wait for the next day. Read Hindu or Statesman kind of newspaper, which is still little independent. Whole question is today we have to see what is the learning opportunity that is being created. For example, nobody has asked a question. OER, Open Education Resource. 170 countries have already done OER policy. How that is going to influence our learning in the future. All NCERT books are now available online. You don't have to buy. Maybe someday our West Bengal government will also put all books online. right? Yeah.
Sir, the next question is Nagaraj ND. He asked, knowledge may be gained from books, but the love of learning is transmitted through personal contact. How does this work in online learning? I mean,
Well, I don't know, because we grew up with the books. We learned to love books, but our next generation grew up with online, and they have also learned to love books. There are many misconceptions that adults have to tell for students to learn, younger people to learn. This is totally wrong. Look at your own children, how they are developing themselves. Are you giving enough opportunity? That's why UNESCO uses a beautiful word called quality learning opportunity. How many of you are providing children's literature at home? Many times I ask parents, children are reading Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew. I ask parents, are you reading? They say, no. I say, how will you know how the children is growing? Whole difference today for teacher and parents is to create learning opportunity for students, children, not to teach. Yeah.
sir, probably today's last question. There are many questions are pouring in, but we are slightly behind schedule time, so we may not take all the questions. So today is probably today's last question from Mayank Kulashetra from YouTube. He asks, may learning about learning management system, the role of learning management system like Moodle.
Yeah.
His question is that I mean, what kind of role it may play in the management system like Moodle could play in the field of learning.
Well, firstly, I'm not an expert. Moodle is a learning management, is a platform. So if you can clarify to yourself what is learning management, then you see how Moodle or Canvas or other platforms can do it. It's an online education platform, and it has the built-in facility. But I would suggest to the participant, why don't you go to internet and learn for yourself, which anyway I'll also do the same.
Just, sir, another question from. Please bear with us. We cannot take all the questions today. We can mail us to our mail ID. Today's last question to Professor Morman Mukhopadhyay from Swadesh Deepak. He asks, technology is good, but it adversely affects the health, like eyesight, no physical activity. What do you have to say about this?
Well, firstly, I'm not a medical doctor. Secondly, there is no evidence so far that it has affected eyes. It's all belief, and primarily belief without evidence.
Yes.
At my age of 76, I work every day 10 hours on computer screen. Even when Calcutta University wants to send me a thesis, I ask them, send it online. I won't read print word. There are a lot of misconception. You go to the eye specialist and check with the eye specialist. What is the right thing to do?
Yes.
And if there is a problem, how to take care, because technology cannot be stopped. I'm from a village. When flood comes, we cannot stop the flood. We can only protect our homes or make an effort to. Technology is like a flood. You cannot stop it. So you think of how to take care of it. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity for me to share with you my views. Remember, academics is something where it is not necessary for you to agree with me or I to agree with you. Academics is a place where difference is celebrated. Agreement is not a matter of celebration. More you can differ, more you are showing your conceptual complexity is at high level. So I'll wish you all the best to learn to differ more and more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is an honor and privilege to hear from you. We have learned many things from you, and we hope to learn from you in future also. Thank you very much, and you perfectly set the tone of today's webinar as a keynote speaker. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, good.
Okay, let us move on to our next proceeding, next technical session. In this session, our chairperson will be the Honorable Principal of our college, Dr. Subhas Vishwas. Uh, uh, is, uh, is sir available in the meeting? Professor Dorothy Paul, please, if the principal sir is there in the meeting.
Just give a moment.
It's still there.
No, he is not here.
So, shall we start on his behalf?
Okay, I'm contacting.
You are muted. Okay. My request to all the participants, please, while the speaker giving their speeches, put your question in the chat box, both on Zoom platform and YouTube Live. We will be taking those questions from there and ask directly to the speakers.
Hello, Ashish. I can see that sir is there, but the audio is muted.
So
Okay. So
he
yeah,
has
I mean,
to.
I think yes, yes, yes,
Yes, sir is there.
yes.
You
So
should go ahead.
okay.
Audio is
So
muted.
he's audible. Is he audible? Am I audible to you, sir? Dr. Subhash Vishwas, am I audible to you, sir?
No sound is yes, yes, yes. Unmuted.
Hello, sir. Hello, am I audible to you, sir?
Audio is muted.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible now, sir.
Continue, no? Some bubble.
Okay, okay, sir. So in this session, I request our honorable principal, Dr. Subhash Vishwas, to take the chair of the session, and with permission from sir, I now request the convener of today's program, Professor Arvodip Paul, to introduce the first speaker of this session, Dr. Rekha V. Kaul, Professor Dr. Rekha V. Kauls. Over to you, Professor Arvodip Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you, sir, for giving me opportunity. Professor Rekha Bikol is an assistant professor of School of Education and Dean International Faculty of Humanities, Curtin University, Perth, Australia. She is well known for her expertise in the field of learning environment and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. She is one of the pioneer researchers in the field of learning environment in India and is associated for more than 17 years with a number of studies in this field in different countries. She is a manuscript reviewer and member of editorial board of four very reputed journal, Research in Science Teaching and Learning Environment Research International, published by Springer, Teaching Science, published by Australian Science Teaching Association, and MIER Journal of Educational Studies, Trends and Practice. She has published more than 40 articles in different internationally reputed journals, conference proceedings, and book chapters. She also published two books based on her research experience. I personally read all of them. These are Indian Classroom Learning Environment, Culture and Education, published in 2009, and Science Education in India, Philosophical, Historical and Contemporary Conservation in 2019. Therefore, she has a lot of experience of research in the field of learning environment, and I really thankful to Professor Kaul for accepting our invitation to be a esteemed speaker in today's webinar. Now I request Professor Kaul to share her experience with all of us. Thank you.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone there. Thank you, Professor Paul, for contacting me and inviting me. As I'm speaking, I'll share my screen and my PowerPoint as we go. It's really a matter of privilege for me to be talking to you all this afternoon, because my roots are from India, and it's my really soft corner. Since COVID hit, I have been talking to people and participating in webinars from India. But this is for the first time. It was a rural center which contacted me and sort of gave me a thrill. And the topic of the webinar was exactly in my area of interest. And I really commend you for coming up with this interesting topic, which will be of relevance to people and is needed. With my presentation, I am going to start from the last sentence, which Professor Mukhopadhyay said, is that we got to disagree. And in my presentation, I think more than giving solutions to issues and challenges, I'm going to ask more questions to the participants, because every place has its own specific questions. And in this era of science and technology, every student will have a different answer to their questions. And that's what I would expect. Even in your institution, the cultural and geographical and geopolitical situation your college is situated in will have its own questions or your own answers. Before we move on, I thought, let me give you a little bit background about the learning environments. Yes, Professor Mukhopadhyay talked about the 21st century learning environments, but the history of learning environments goes back to around in early 1900s, when Kurt Lewin talked about that learning environments are dependent on certain factors. And what are they? Personality and the environment. The personality, you can't change a person's personality. You can't change to a certain extent, yes, but basic personality can't be changed, and the environment you are living in. And it doesn't mean to only ecological environment, the picture, what picture is showing. It is the environment at home, environment of the society, environment of the school, environment of the classroom. And you can go from macro to micro environments. All this impacts students' development or human development. At the same time, we had various approaches to studying human environments, and ecology plays a major role in person's learning. This is the picture I put on. It's the CBD of Perth, the city where I live in. And if a CBD is sparsely populated, what sort of learning will happen? Or if it's a street of a Delhi, which is highly populated, what sort of air will be there? What sort of traffic will be there? And what sort of learning is happening? Because I think today, the bumps we experienced in getting the technology working was a learning in itself. We created an entirely different environment. It was ecology, technological ecology, creating a new environment for us. Organizational structure. What is the organization in a classroom, or for a teacher in the school, or if you are a university lecturer? Is it horizontal? Is it hierarchical? Or does everyone has equal power? It impacts the human behavior and human environment. Personal characters, what sort of, which is your own behavior. Are you an easygoing person? Are you motivated? Are you ready to learn? That impacts human behaviors. But in learning environment research till now, we have focused on psychosocial characteristics of the learners or the people who are facilitating learning. Moving on from there, then Randolph Moose was again a Harvard psychologist who talked about 3 dimensions of learning. One is personal development, how it impacts learning or human behaviors, relationships, but what we focus on, system maintenance and system change in educational learning. So how is the educational system maintained and what are the changes happening? And you would know in past few months, worldwide at global level, there was a massive change. Even like India didn't take a few weeks to take every learning opportunity for students in fully online mode. And then they struggled with assessments because assessment is not being seen as a part of teaching and learning. But if we integrate teaching and learning, what sort of learning with assessment, what sort of learning environment we will be developing? These are certain questions which all of us have to ponder into and then come up with answers. We will go eventually there. Educational and coming from human environments, I'm going to talk about a little bit about educational environments. Educational environment is a part of human environment, but since we are educationists, I thought let's look deeply into educational environment. Because any classroom is where our psychology of the person and the social factors interact. That's what educational environment is. And how it progresses or helps us in progressing the learning. And whenever we do any research, Professor Mukhopadhyay talked about evidence, is we look at the students, curriculum, teacher, and other internal and external factors affecting the environment. So all these things are to be taken in together to look at what sort of environment we are developing. If we are going to take everything fully online, is there any need to change the curriculum? The university I come from, soon after COVID, we took all our classes. We are currently delivering them in fully online mode. But there were certain things which we could not do, like a course in journalism, where students have to go and work in society. You can't take it online. Mass media, where they have to film, they have to have access to the labs, lab-based courses. You can't take them fully online. There are bits and pieces which technology is facilitating, but not fully. The health sciences courses, nurses who have to treat patients, unless they have on-site experience, simulation cannot fully replace it. And accrediting bodies are not allowing that. So we have to take everything into consideration before making a sense of that environment. And measures of environment are more like we look at the measure of motivation of the ability or achievement students can gain. There is a lot of criticism about learning environment. Why do we need to look at learning environments? But at the same time, I would say one of my revered colleagues, did the mathematics. And according to him, this is Professor Fraser, Barry Fraser, who is seen as father of learning environments currently in world. His mathematics says that students spend 20,000 hours in a classroom by the time they finish their high school. And I added it in red currently because if it is not classroom, it could be a similar situation. So is it important for us to make these 20,000 hours worthwhile? Because these will play a major role in developing the future personality of these students. What sort of environment we will provide these students. And honestly, based on my personal experience, giving attention to learning environments is not a waste of time. Because if we improve the learning environment, student achievement improves. Whether it is online, it's offline, blended, or active learning, giving attention to it does help. Yes, is it different in 21st century? We will come to that as I progress in my talk. Historical beginnings of learning environment research, which started somewhere in 1970s, I've said 40 plus years, now we can easily say around 50 years back. These were, I'll quickly skim through these slides, is learning environment inventory, my class inventory, and classroom environment scales were the earliest scale questionnaires developed and validated. As we progressed, specific purpose-built instruments with specific focus, if you are looking at independence and differentiation, are we looking at university, as I would say, learning environment research progressed, university environments started being evaluated, and laboratory environment, how is the interaction between teacher and students. In fact, this QTI questionnaire on teacher interaction, it developed in Netherlands by Theo Woebels, who has a full-fledged school with nearly 50 academics in a Dutch school. They are only working on different types of teacher-student interactions. And it's, again, QTI has been by now translated in 60 odd languages and used worldwide. In recent past, and I was involved in all these researches, developed student perceptions of assessment, place-based learning environment instrument. That means we are not talking about some other place. If there is a student can, relate to their own environment more. If you ask them the questions about their own village, their own school, their own city, they know it more better than if I talk about New York in New Delhi. That doesn't make any sense. At the same time as technology came into being, trophy, which I call it, technology-rich, outcome-focused learning environment, what is happening in this classroom. Again, instrument on differentiation was a World Bank funded project, which is involves nearly 13 countries by now. And most recently, only this year, I validated this classroom emotional climate, and it is very valid in current times, keeping in view our students are enclosed in their homes, living in 2-room apartments in Delhi. What sort of mental health issues, how emotional impact must be happening on students? There is other issue of equity. A family of 3 having 1 laptop in their home, and our authorities are expecting them to learn in online environment. I know of children who are studying from iPhone, smartphones. So what emotional climate they are going through? Is it worth looking at? Moving on from there, I would expect this is what your classroom would have looked like all through. When you were a student, you are a teacher. I was hoping that I will have some students in my audience, but I'm not sure if there are any students, but this is a typical classroom. But my classroom, my teaching classroom for past at least 7 years looked like this. This is School of Education, Curtin University, where we make students do group work, and that's how they sit. All these tables are disintegrable, and they can set it up based on the number of students in each group. It can be between 2 to 3, or this day, the day this picture was taken, they were working in groups of 6. When I come, I teach here, but I have a voice activated. You can see these small bits here. I have voice activated cameras. So whatever happens in the classroom gets recorded. Students can participate online, and they have been participating for last 7 years in this environment. And at the same time, everything gets recorded and automatically gets posted on our learning management system. We use Blackboard. In fact, the Moodle question which came up in the last session, Moodle was also developed in Curtin University. One of my students developed it, Martin Dugias. And that's what our learning environment looked like, and it continues. So COVID didn't have much impact on us in this way. But we did learn. As COVID happened, we learned lots of things through our environment. We learned to read the maps. We learned to read these charts. Even people who had no understanding had not done extensive courses in science and mathematics, knew what this means now. So learning environment is not only formal. We had informal learning environments teaching us what we needed to learn at that time. But what would have your learning environment look like? I'm just making a assumption. Is every student taking a mobile phone or a computer in hand, and that's where you are teaching? And how does it impact us? And what do we need to do? We need to make bridges. We need to make bridges between what we have and where we are going. And I think Indian education system is facing 2 challenges. One is the COVID, and other is we just released a new national educational policy, which has all the right things written in it. But how do we make it happen? How do we make it successful? Taking everything fully online without training our teachers, without having enough technology, can we do it? Does our population have access to technology? Are we catering to everyone, or are we catering to only elite few? And I believe everyone who is participating in this webinar right now, we are lucky enough, and we are part of that elite few. So what are the questions? And to build this bridge, we will need pedagogical shifts. We will need shifts in teaching and learning, which Professor Mukhopadhyay covered really well. As you know, to a greater extent, India is still sitting within the cognitivist approach, where we are giving the cognitive development of the children. But to a certain extent, we have even moved into constructivist approach. And at the same time, COVID really pushed us to move into virtual approach. So where are we sitting? Or do we have to come up with something where we will have mix of all three of them and develop that learning environment? When I looked at the cognitivist approach and what all it should have, I thought, yes, we looked at prior knowledge. And in new learning environments, virtual learning environments, we will still need to know as teachers or as facilitators of learning, what is our cohort's prior knowledge? Communication. Communication is a huge thing. I'm currently writing a book on makerspace and developing 21st century learning skills. Communication is becoming a really big problem for me. Where to stop and where to stop, actually. Multimodal. Isn't our learning environment very multimodal right now? And engaging. If our learning environment is not engaging, it's very difficult for us as teachers or as students to keep them engaged and to keep them motivated. Because all the knowledge is there. It is in world media, in multimedia. But we have to teach them skills of iterating what is to be learned. Constructivist pedagogies have all these skills, but are they redundant with virtual learning, virtual pedagogies? I don't think so. All these points, discovery, exploring, experimentation, project work, problem-based, reflective learning, self-assessments, scaffolding of your learning, they still are relevant in this time. Now, the other pedagogy which we in our university, we are following is flipped learning. So what do we do? Do we turn the classroom around? To a certain extent, yes. But through flipped learning, what are we doing? We are just making students think before they come into the classroom. And class is not run as a lecture, it's being run as a workshop where they will engage, they will create or co-create. So what do we need to do in this 21st century? What learning environments should be doing? They should be creating 21st century learning skills, because in 21st century, focus has moved from content to skills. As teachers, we should be developing critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration and communication in students. There is critical thinking. That means you have to design the tasks, the learning tasks, which will prompt students to think and think critically. They have to be creative. Creative in a way that they will create their own knowledge. Always people say, what do you mean by creative? Do they have to invent something? They have to invent their own knowledge. They have to learn how to do it. And teacher as a facilitator has to make sure that it's guarded, that misconceptions will develop. But again, not to tell them this is wrong, but bring them to the right side as well. As I said, collaboration, there is a lot of criticism. I know India has started giving projects to students. We need to, it's again, teacher has to become an artist. How to develop those collaborative projects. There is criticism from parents that only my child is, and it happens even here, is only my child is, contributing to the group project and others are also getting grades on it. And my argument generally is, after your child leaves school or university, when they go into the world of work, they will have to work collaboratively. And they should have these skills right from school side. And communication, if you are not a good communicator, you won't do well in life. Although UNESCO adopted these learning skills from Australian curriculum or the policy document, but worldwide, we still don't have a framework which we could give to teachers how to measure these skills. We do tell teachers, develop them, but how are they going to develop it? Or how are they going to tell me, yes, my student can think critically, my student can think creatively. So this is something very vital, which as teachers, we will have to work into and develop a framework, maybe a digital tool. That's what I'm working on right now. But would it be appropriate everywhere? That is to be seen. And it's a challenge for us as educators or leaders in education. Opportunities, there are lots of tools available. And you have a collection of resources in Symbaloo. And I wouldn't say every tool will apply to you. It depends on teacher, what they are teaching and what helps them and what all they can use. For communication and collaboration, I have used few of them, and that's why I put them together. Kahoot is a good one. Poll Everywhere. I sometimes send a poll question to students and they come back to me. Canva is a good one. Bublas works well. But again, I can't tell you what to use and what not to use, because it depends on your content, what you're teaching and what is available to you, and what are you comfortable with using. And as you would know, is Schumann told us as teachers, we have the content knowledge. If I'm going to teach botany, I would have the content knowledge of botany. I will have the pedagogical knowledge, but I should also have the pedagogical content knowledge of the topic I am teaching. And this was very important for all teachers. But as we moved into technology, now we will have to develop the technological pedagogical content knowledge. And TPAC model, again, is one technology is not going to apply for all the topics. So we will have to know, every teacher will have to know what would be their technological, pedagogical content knowledge. Develop their own knowledge and then use it and reuse. And that's what teacher is. That's what action research is. My dream is to see every classroom teacher as an action researcher. They are, actually they are, as their experience progresses, they become researchers, but they never ever write it down. They don't document it. If they would document it, it would be a worthwhile resource for future teachers to see so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, what do we need to change? We need a major paradigm shift in perceiving education and or life. What has happened? Like personally, myself, in January this year, late January, when I heard about COVID, I was booked to travel to China in February. I thought, oh no, okay, it's happened. Okay, we can travel later in the year, maybe September. In my wildest dreams, we wouldn't have expected it will go wild. It will go, the whole world would come to a standstill. And science and technology hasn't progressed, that we can't find a vaccine. So we will have to have a major paradigm shift in perceiving life and how education should look like. Is education's role only to get us, our children, jobs, or give them the life skills? For me, it would be the life skill. Catering to, and next would be, we need to look at the diversity in society. As you know, it's not only India, the world is very, very diverse, and so is India. 50% of Indian population still lives under poverty line. How can we teach those children? Right to education came in 2000. But if we are going into technological world, will our 100% children have access to technology? And if not, how are we going to cater to them? And this is a big, big issue. And I haven't seen it coming up very profoundly in Indian debates. But at the same time, we should not undermine our own experiences. We have to go global. We have to go global and see what's happening in the world and adopt from there. Adopt and adapt. Adapt to our own conditions. But novel solutions can be coming from my own classroom, which is all of you. My doesn't mean Rekha. My means each one of you. Document them and share them with educational fraternity all over the world and become a global educationist. And through that, we can get equity and social justice. Participating. Peer learning, that's it. Peer learning from educators around the world and you becoming a source of that. You're learning from them and they're learning from us, which would lead to evidence-based successful narratives. You will be creating this knowledge and sharing it with people. And that's what has to change. India is very low in research productivity. And that's where we can create that source of research if we are ready to share our narratives and share our experiences. That's what needs to change. And although you can see it as a challenge, I see it as an opportunity. COVID has hit us, but in this, whatever calamity, we have to change this calamity into an opportunity. And this is an opportune time for us. And through that, you will be changing your own learning environments. And what needs to be considered is, as educators, I'm not sure how many of you would have read this 1954 book, Motivation and Personality, written by Abraham Maslow. Is aim of any life is to reach self-actualization. And if we go even to Indian philosophy, it says we should be realized, self-realization. That is the aim of Hindu Dharma and Hindu way of life. But Maslow says self-actualization comes at the end. And this will not come unless our basics are met. Where our psychological needs, our safety, love and belonging. Make a student feel loved. It doesn't matter what you taught your child. It doesn't matter what you're teaching in the classroom. It matters how you make a child feel in the classroom. If you make that child feel loved, worthy, child's motivation to learn will automatically change and they will start learning. Esteem, self-esteem is which will build confidence, achievement, respect for others and respected by others. And that will lead to morality, creativity, spontaneity, and then problem solvers. They won't have prejudice and they will start accepting the facts and creating their own facts. This is my vision of learning environment of 21st century, which will have all the 21st century skills. I will surely get a framework for teachers where they can document whether their students have developed these skills or not. But self-actualization through education is the aim. Thank you. And any questions? Don't beat the books like the teacher is doing there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Please put your question on the chat box. Okay,
It will take too much time.
Ma'am, am I audible to you, ma'am?
Yeah, very clear.
So there is a question from Bhumika Khanjilal. She asked, I'm quoting from her, we still think that evaluation or for that part an examination is actually a memory test for students. What do you have to say on that comment?
Yes, the way I said, we will have to change, and I see in your new national educational policy, the emphasis is going away because they are going for these continuous assessment. But to me, I wanted to put that slide here, but due to paucity of time, I didn't put it. I see curriculum as like this: teaching and learning. Sorry, you have the curriculum, you have teaching and learning and assessment. And for any educational system, we develop the curriculum first, which in India in my time was called syllabus. But actually, first teacher or the teacher provider should decide at end of the course what skills this child should have. And based on that, you will develop the assessment, and that assessment should decide what should be taught in the course. So I see a ray of light in next education policy. It depends how it's implemented, but performance-based assessments, I'm not very supportive of that.
Hello,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I am Bhumika Kanjilal. I put forward my question. It was not a question, rather it was an observation on my part, because we always find that the Indian system, as it is still now, before the implementation of the new education policy, it is rather a memory test. The
Yes, that's
examination is
right.
rather a memory test, and the syllabus still persists. So perhaps the whole evaluation system needs to be changed. A rigorous change needs to be brought in, and perhaps, and I was very enlightened hearing your lecture, because the workshop mode and the learning of students and making them think, rather what is thinking, learning or teaching them what is thinking at all. It is
Please,
not
could you
over any one
make
subject.
your question short, please? There is a constraint of time.
Sorry,
Okay.
just like I would like to
Okay,
share
okay,
my
thank you, thank you.
views. Thank you, ma'am. This was
I think
all
your question
it.
is answered. Okay, thank you, thank you. So there is a question from a participant in YouTube Live. Am I audible to you, man?
Yes, very clear.
Okay, okay. The question is just a minute. Okay, this is from Vikram Singh Power Patil. He asked, "Can constructivism is possible in rural India?"
Constructivism?
I mean, so he's probably right. That is the
Yeah, it
question.
would be construct very much, very much. I have seen teachers taking. Um, there are a few examples taking students out in the field and let students construct their own knowledge. There is a one visionary person in Ladakh, which is in the mountains of Himalayas. He is setting up a very innovative school, in fact, university in few years. I don't remember his name. He is a engineer by training, uh, Yenchek or something. You can Google it. And it's not rural India, it's a remote rural India where he is setting up constructivist school. And we have examples everywhere. During my own educational journey, I've gone through the rigorous Indian system, which was examination based, but we had a visiting professor come over, and she asked us to write critical comments pick up any article and write your critical comments. And that started my journey of thinking. But in India, we don't teach students to think. You have to push them to think. And in villages, you have multiple opportunities. Take them and show them how a tractor works. Write an essay on that. You're developing language skills. You're teaching them science. You're teaching them maths. You're teaching them technology altogether. Measurements, whatever you want. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. There is a question from Bino Bonobonia Thirupathia. He asks how we can identify critical thinking in students in primary level.
Again, it's how you set up the job. Critical thinking. I have a student who is doing currently her PhD on with early childhood, and she has collected her data from students in the age group of 3 to 7 years old and developing those critical thinking skills in them. She showed them a simple activity of washing hands and then seeing their hands under the microscope, before the microscope and after before washing and after washing. This is COVID time. And what happens to your hands? And that is where you are training them to think critically. What happens? What did they have when they had dust on their hands? What was there? And how did it change? And they will further think about it. They will develop that relational understanding of what happens through washing. And primary school, you can have multiple examples. I gave you an example of early childhood. You can easily translate it into primary level. Simple, everyday processes. Take them into kitchen. What happens when you put a glass of water on a source of heat? How does cold water turn warmer? Isn't it a critical thinking?
Okay.
Simple. Thank you.
Okay. Probably the last question. But please, due to constraint of time, I cannot take all the questions. So
you can email them to me. You can email them to me, and I'll send them back.
Okay, definitely, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am. The next question is Paramita Sarkar. She asked, how do we create flipped classroom in lower socio-economic background-based institute? Is it
Can
really
you? How do we? How do we
create flipped classroom?
Flipped classroom. Give a question today. You're in a low SES area, and you are running a face-to-face classroom. You don't need technology for everything. Tell students, give them a question, a simple question. Okay, children, tomorrow we are going to read maybe a story about growth of plants. So can you go home and look at a tree in your backyard? Again, low socioeconomic, they may be living in and tell me when was it planted. So students will have or 3 different types of trees. One tree could be 100-year-old tree, one could be a 10-year-old tree, and one tree which was planted 2 months back, a seasonal vegetable. So what are the different processes? Multiple questions you can ask. They come to classroom prepared, and then you run the workshop.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I think due to constraints of time, we cannot take all the questions. Please bear with us. Thank you, ma'am. We have thoroughly enjoyed your speech, and we have learned a lot from this speech, and we will try to implement all these knowledge that we have gathered from your word of wisdom. And thank you for giving us such a wonderful lecture on the current scenario in learning environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was privileged.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So let us move on to our next segment. With due permission from Principal Sir, the chairman of the session, I now request one of the faculty members of our college, Shivnarayan Verma Sir, to introduce our next speaker, Professor Nimai Chand Maiti. Are you there?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You are audible.
Thank you, Professor Ashish Viswas. It's an honor to introduce such an eminent personality like Dr. Nimai Chand Maiti. His achievements are so huge, but due to paucity of time, I'm trying to be very brief, and for this I beg for his forgiveness. Dr. Nimai Chand Maiti is a former professor and the head of the Department of Education at University of Calcutta. He has also taught in a bunch of institutions like Basudevpur Vidyasagar Vidyabhet, Kheput High School, Beat Singha Bhagavati Vidyalaya, and Tamralipta Mahavidyalaya. His areas of specialization are teacher education, sociology of education, and non-formal education. Dr. Maiti earned his PhD on an academic and professional profile of university teacher in West Bengal from University of Calcutta. Dr. Maiti has been a research guide of a number of PhD and MPhil candidates. He was a principal investigator in minor project under UGC unassigned grant titled Assessment of Environment Awareness Among College Entrants, Baseline Study of Newly Introduced Environment Education Curriculum. He was the co-investigator in a major project titled Buddhist Education in India. It was a UGC-sponsored interdisciplinary UPE program. He was the co-investigator in a major project which was a UGC-sponsored interdisciplinary UPE program titled a study to assess the impact of environment-related activity programs on students' environmental awareness and action skills in secondary schools with special reference to Sundarban areas. Dr. Maiti has worked as a team leader of West Bengal team in a major project on teaching and learning in higher education in India, sponsored by NUEPA, New Delhi. Dr. Maiti has published abundant research papers and books. He has also authored various curriculum books for distance education for Kalyani University and Rabindra Bharati University. Dr. Nimai Chand Maiti has worked as the editor of numerous renowned journals. And we are highly privileged to have him on this platform today. Over to Professor Ashish Vishwas. Thank you.
Ashish, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Humayun Verma sir, for introducing our esteemed speaker, Professor Nimai Chand Maiti. Over to you, sir. Are you there? Professor Nimai Chand Maiti.
Sir, please unmute yourself. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Hello, Ashish. Sir, have to unmute.
Yes, he has to unmute himself.
Yes.
If there is a problem, please call him.
No need to call. He perhaps unmuted himself.
হ্যালো
Yes, sir. You are now audible.
হ্যাঁ অগ্রদীপ এবার শোনা যাচ্ছে
Sir. Yes.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা ওকে I can speak shortly as there is time constraint. As one professor of your university introduced me, I am privileged to hear these things. I am listening the speeches of Professor Marmol Mukhopadhyay and Professor Rekha B. Kaul. They are experts in the field of education and renowned persons. I am still a learner in the field of education, though I have served many institutions in different capacities throughout West Bengal. I visited several institutions in West Bengal and outside also. I joined as chemistry teacher of a school, and then I went to another school as headmaster and college, B.Ed department, and at last I reached the University of Calcutta and retired from there. Still I am learning. I have learned many things from Professor Mukhopadhyay and Professor Kaul. So I am saying something about the role of teachers for creating learning environment. I still believe that though in the 21st century, learning environment has changed, new policy has introduced in this year, education policy, several changes have made in our educational policy systems, and students are more advanced in the field of technology. I am not so expert. As I learned from the lectures previously said by the speakers, as I believe, conceptually speaking, the learning environment refers to the whole range of components and activities within which learning of learners occurs. Technologically speaking, a learning environment relies on computer-supported systems such as learning management system, a combination of various educational technologies and virtual environments also. Learning environment refers to the diverse physical locations, context, and cultures in which students learn. As Professor Kaul stated, that a learning environment ought to implement many functions. I think 6 functions, namely inform, communicate, collaborate, produce, scaffold, and manage. I am not explaining these elaborately, as previous professors have already explained all of these. There are various types of learning environment. Learning environments vary from context to context and also from classroom to classroom. There are at least 4 types of learning environments, each with unique elements. Learning environments can be learner oriented, as Professor Mukhopadhyay stated, and Professor Kaul also mentioned. In the 21st century, learning environment should be learner oriented, or that is student oriented. There are also other types of learning environments, teacher centered or knowledge centered, assessment centered, and also community centered. I am not explaining all of these. I believe the role of teacher is very important aspect in the safe and positive learning environment for student learning. Learning environment is the rapport between a teacher and his or her student. When the students understand that the teacher cares about them and wants them to do well, students feel comfortable asking questions, making mistakes, and taking risks in order to learn something new. To build these kinds of relationships, the teacher should take interest in each student's thoughts and interests, as well as their struggles and also frustrations. He or she needs to act as a positive model for learning and celebrating achievements. When the students see that their teacher can learn from his or her mistakes and laugh even in times when he or she feels frustrated, the students will feel much more comfortable to do the same. A teacher needs students willing to learn, supportive parents, and a supporting administration. Students who want to learn what is being taught is a teacher's dream. A teacher wants students that want to learn and better themselves. Teachers should expect their students to be motivated to improve themselves. A teacher needs supportive parents. It is hard for a student just to be motivated by a single person. It takes the teacher and parents to motivate the students to want to learn. Parents of the students decide if the student will like their teachers. If the parents like the teacher, then the child will like the teacher more likely to like the teachers. A supportive administration is also a need for the teaching community. Teachers must know that they have the support of school or college or university administration. They have to have the supportive foundation of administration. There are various needs of students. All students have similar needs of food, clothing, shelter, and a need to belong a particular group. I do not think that this question is asking about those types of needs. Many students have varied social, economic, family, and education needs. It is often difficult for a public school or college setting to address all of the needs that are absent in our student lives. I have found that simply listening, showing compassion, and being a consistent influence has a tremendous impact on our students. We have many students coming from the worst possible family situation. Oftentimes, students come to class dirty and dressed inappropriately. They often find that this is not the case. The students are reluctant to do the work and are extremely hard to motivate. It is amazing to see how the students change when they are exposed to a positive, consistent role model. Students are really trying to learn. We as adults do not realize how strong of an influence we have over our students.
Sir, can you just remove your hand? You are not visible fully.
Okay. So the learning environment is very important. The positive learning environment motivates the students. The topic for discussion selected by the college is very significant and important, I think. I congratulate the organizers of the college, principal and professors of the college for inviting me to join the webinar and to say something about this as an expert. But I am not so expert in this field. I think I am still learning myself. So thank you all. I am completing my discussion here. Thank you all.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us some knowledge about the role of teachers in today's learning environment. And we will just take as a word of guidance to implement that in our teaching process. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
It has been a privilege to hear from you. And we hope to have you again in such an occasion. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If anybody can, if anybody want to ask any question to NCM sir, please you can put your question in the chat box. Sir, there is a question from Shivnarayan Verma sir. Hello, am I audible to you?
Okay.
Shivnarayan Verma said that all of teachers are facing today, that is in online mode while teaching the student, though they are connected, connectivity, there is no connectivity issue probably, they are reluctant to join the classes. So how should we manage that situation and make them join the classes? What should be the role of teacher in that aspect?
Role of teachers is to motivate the students to join the class. Teachers like me, as not associated with the technological mode but digital mode, but this situation, this pandemic situation, compels us to do the class online. Students should also cooperate with teachers in this matter. I think there are some problems of the students in this case. I have experienced with different colleges and universities. Some students are facing difficulties in connection. There are several problems of network connection. In my locality, I also faced such type of problems. So they should be motivated to join the class. I think I joined the class of teachers who are responsible for the students. If students feel that teachers actually give care for them, they must participate in the lectures provided online. Okay.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Sanchita Ghosh, who is a participant in a YouTube live. She asks, how will a teacher best teach writing skill onto a class?
How the teacher
How
will
the teacher best teach writing skills to a class?
Writing skills. I think any organism can learn. Human being is any human being can learn himself or herself. But role of teacher is also important. I believe role of teachers. So they should motivate to write what they are learning or what they have learned from experience or from YouTube or from the lecture, they should try to write these in their exercise books or taking notes from there. In such a way, they will enhance their writing skills.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think we cannot take more questions due to lack of time. Thank you, sir, for giving us a enlightening session, and we have learned a lot from your speech. We hope to hear again from you in our next in another occasion. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Let us move on to our next segment. That is, let me request the faculty from English department, Rizal Mullah sir, to introduce our next speaker, the next esteemed speaker, Professor Renu Nanda. Over to you, over to you, Rizal Mullah sir. Are you there?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You are perfectly
Hello?
audible. You are perfectly. Please put on your video.
I put on it.
Yes, you are visible now. You are visible now.
Okay. Thank you, Ashish. It's a great honor for me to have the opportunity to invite Professor Renu Nanda. She is the professor and dean, faculty of education. At present, she is playing versatile role in the field of various educational institutions. She is an expert member in the board of studies in education and educational administration in physical education in the Maharaja Shayari Rao University of Baroda, Gujarat, appointed on August 27, 2020. She is a member of University Council, University of Jammu 2019 onwards. She is a member of advisory committee of Pandit Madan Mohan Malabha Mission of Teachers and Teaching School of Education, Central University of Jammu, appointed on 22 5 2017. She is a managing trustee of Sarvodaya International Trust, Jammu and Kashmir. She is a chapter member of governing body Sarva Shikha Abhiyan, Jammu and Kashmir State, and a member of governing body State Literacy Mission Authority for Implementation of Female Literacy in Jammu and Kashmir, and a member of governing body of Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, Jammu and Kashmir. She is also a member of Review Board, Jammu and Kashmir State Prisons, and a member of Regional Red Cross Committee, Jammu and Kashmir. She is a resource person of WISCOMP, New Delhi, satellite faculty of TQM and NUETA. She is an advisor of Shahara School, Jammu, for differently able children. She is the state coordinator of ASER Pratham, New Delhi, from 2005 to 2008. And her academic achievements are she had a research experience of 25 years on issue related to educational technology, primary education, higher education, gender, non-formal education, and governance. She has completed and submitted 4 minor research projects, namely NIETA, UGC, SRC, Jammu and Kashmir, and 6 major research paper projects, namely ICSSR, BS and G, NCERT, IUCTE, and her extensional works are are number one, extension and field work in educational social work and reach out for last 25 years. Yeah, she has huge publications, about 36 books and 12 book reviews and 3 conferences. She had participated and presented papers in 191 seminars, workshops, conferences in India and abroad. I would like to request uh, Professor Renu Nanda to have her microphone. Please, ma'am, have your
Yeah.
microphone.
Thank you very much. That was
Okay,
quite a
you are welcome.
detailed, I wasn't expecting that much. I would introduce myself as a keen and an ardent learner.
Madam, can you put on?
I'm not putting it on because that's what I was wanting to say, that I don't mind putting it on, but you know, the bandwidth, it'll kind of go wavering in between. So because I heard the other speakers, so now that you've seen me, that I'm there, right?
Okay,
Lock, stock, and barrel with all of you.
As
So
you please.
yeah, no, that's fine, but it just disturbs. That's it.
Oh, definitely.
A very pleasant afternoon to all of you. I'm really elated, very, very happy to be joining all of you on a seminar which has a very pertinent theme. And I think all of us are concerned about this. At the outset, I would like to say that, Ashish, we are all impressed by your continuously, trying to follow each one of the speakers and have the patience to be recording. So I was appreciating you. I would also like to thank Dr. Argadeep Paul, who's been calling me umpteen number of times. Thank you, Dr. Paul. And also, it was a pleasure listening to Professor Bamanpukur, whom I look up as my mentor. I have immense respect for him. It was a pleasure, a treat to listen to Professor Rekha B. Kaul, and of course, Professor Nimai Chand Maiti. And yes, I did listen also to your principal, sir, in the beginning, right? So he made very good remarks, concerning the teaching learning scenario. So thank you all very much for making me part of this particular webinar. At the outset, I would like to say that all of us in the present scenario are trying to organize, are trying to link up to different webinars. And the whole idea of doing that is to understand that the teaching learning scenario in the 21st century definitely has undergone tremendous change. Because we are part of that change, that's how all of us have not only accepted, but are also trying to substantially contribute depending on our own, competencies. I thought that I would just, flag a few issues which are very, very important. As teachers, we tend to think that teaching is all about teachers and our role. In fact, the most important aspects of educational process are the students. What they learn, how they learn, and when they learn. This is very important. At the outset, I was thinking of an appropriate quote, and we are all familiar with Swami Vivekananda, and I quote him, "Arise, awake, and stop, not unless the goal is reached," unquote. Now, why I did talk about this is, as was mentioned by Professor Mukhopadhyay and Professor Kaul and Professor Nimai as well, this institute of yours is in a rural setting. And rural settings have always been my first love. I've always, been very, very happy to be associated. So what we need to do is that we have to continue with our efforts and then see how best can we supplement and augment these efforts, which are there, so that, the goals are achieved. Normally what happens is that we initiate a process, and after initiating the process, the follow-ups are not there. The evaluation goes in one direction, the follow-up goes in another direction. And then because of the fact that we do not do the follow-ups, we are not doing justice with a particular program or a particular pedagogy or a particular methodology. Now, the major concerns which are there in the teaching learning have been, of course, listed by the previous speakers, but I would like to say once again that we have the curricular concerns, the pedagogical concerns, the infrastructural concerns, concerns related to the examination, the evaluation, and then most importantly, we all have been hit by this COVID-19. A pandemic has brought about the health concerns, these two have been made a priority. See, I've been working for a very long time. Professor Mukhopadhyay is very well aware of that, and I would like to share with all of you in the rural settings. And in the rural settings, after having heard the earlier speakers, I would like to share that the things are very, very different when we look at the grassroots level. We're talking about the concerns in a scenario wherein we do not have the bare minimum also possible. And at the same time, we are saying that teaching learning process, which actually is a very complex, cooperative, and a personal relationship kind of a process between the faculty and the students, is actually a two-way kind of a thing. But in rural settings, what we see is that many of the educational institutions have paucity of the faculty, of the infrastructure, of the resources, and students do not have access to what is bare minimum. But at the same time, we have to see that the future world of learning is one where the forces of globalization now. Professor Mukhopadhyay mentioned about globalization, and so did the other speakers. We're looking at the world as a global village. So this pervasive technology and innovation demands in the learning environments combine to form a dynamic setting that is both challenging and difficult for the educational leaders. At this juncture, I would also want to give reference of what was said by Rabindranath Tagore, and I quote, "Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free," unquote. So we have to create an environment wherein we allow our children, to be constantly reflecting, thinking, doing critical appreciations, and that is what will give vent to new knowledge, a knowledge which will be created by these young children, which otherwise is, forget the word creation, we do not even allow freedom of expression. So what happens is a timetable is, kind of forced on to the students and the teachers, which does not do justice with the creative and the innovative temper of the children. Whereas we normally say that the task of education is to unleash the hidden potentialities of a child. But how do we do that? So I think a few changes which we have experienced, but we need to see a little more of these changes. Instructions could be student-centered. We have been saying, you see, the point is that talking about these things in the 21st century, we've been talking about it since the previous century. But the gap is the implementation. So it's there that we need to lay our focuses on. We have to ensure that there is collaborative learning. Learning should be contextualized. A student studying in West Bengal should try and understand the geography and the other related aspects of the other states, of the other regions, only after having understood or only after having got to know, being familiarized with one's own environment and surroundings. So our learning by and large is not contextualized. There's hardly any community integration and participation. It's there for the name sake. We say that we need to take the community on board, but we do not, even if we take them on board, we do not allow them to participate and contribute. Now, when I say we do not allow, it's actually a two-way process. They also shirk, they also do not come forward, with any good, fruitful suggestion for the improvement of the educational institutions or the curriculum for that matter. We have to see how can we make our children, problem solvers. We have to lay emphasis on reflective critical thinking, because unless and until the students reflect, they are into critical thinking, we cannot realize the ultimate objective of making our students, making our teachers constructivists. How do we construct knowledge? It's basically when we allow these kind of things to be happening at the grassroots level, is then that we can ensure that there can be some creativity. And with this creativity, what happens is that the new ideas and new thoughts come into existence. And, sharing of these ideas, of these thoughts can definitely induce new learning, which will be more interesting. Whenever we participate in an activity, it becomes very interesting. It becomes something wherein, we have a hands-on kind of an experience. Now, there has been a lot of, discussion with regards to technology, right from Professor Mukhopadhyay to Professor Nima. I was talking about that he's not, that was, I was looking at how I would say that he was conveying that, but at the same time, he was making use of technology. So, sir, we all have, some, I think, knowledge of technology, but then the whole idea is to blend this knowledge of technology, understanding of technology, usage of technology into the classroom situations that we are in. I generally debate with my own, I would say colleagues, and especially the people in the rural areas, because for them, technology is something which is very expensive, very huge, and full of complexities. But and we all know, we all understand, it isn't like that. Technology is something which is as simple, as easy as making a flashcard, using a chalkboard, making use of your textbook, a reference book, and then we move on. There is no end to it. Now, it depends on the situation that we are in, that we want to bring technology into our classrooms. We are all aware of the fact that the new education policy 2020, the national education policy, has been unrolled. It has just come out. And in the pandemic times, we all are trying our best to understand and then see what kind of substance is there in this particular policy, which definitely speaks very loudly about the usage of technology, being digital, multidisciplinarity. There is a lot of emphasis on training. There is a lot of emphasis on, creation of a single regulatory systems for higher education and also for other professional vocational institutions and school education. So, and then there will be a connectivity between what is being taught in the school and what is being taught in the higher education. In the present context, we all will agree and we all will understand that the biggest challenge that is being faced is the bridge, is the void, is the gap that we have between school education and higher education. Be it the curriculum, be it the transaction or the methodologies, pedagogies, but then it's there. So what we need to do is that the sooner we establish the linkages between these two sectors, and the best way to do is that all internships, the practical work, the experimentation, the project work can be possibly done in our schools, which actually are, I would say, live laboratories for all of us. But because we do not take them into the fold right from the beginning when planning is done, it becomes very difficult for them, at the school level and for us at the higher education level, to ensure that they will participate and they will, give their support and strengthen the reasons for which the students in higher education need to go and be in the schools. So this gap has to be bridged. The sooner I think we do that, we'll be able to master a lot of things. Now, how is it that when we talk about curriculum, we have to see that the curriculum that we have in the present times, Professor Kaul was talking about a curriculum. See, when we were studying, it was very different. It was a typical kind of a syllabus. At the moment, even if we have a curriculum, The big question is, be it West Bengal, be it Jammu Kashmir, Madhya Pradesh, or be it Australia, anywhere else, maybe Australia and other countries, because they have a very pragmatic approach. They are actually following up the curriculum in letter and spirit. But when it comes to the situation that we all are in, we see that whatever is mentioned in the curriculum, all of it is not being executed. The rush is to complete the syllabus. Dear ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners, I would like to submit that the rush to complete the syllabus will actually take us nowhere. I was associated with school education for 3 years, from 2005 to 2008, wherein I was given the responsibility to understand the primary education of the entire J&K, including Ladakh. It was at that point of time that I tried to understand and look for myself that what is actually happening in the school levels, at the school level, is something which is, very, very difficult to control, because it has taken a shape by just going out of our hands. And at the same time, the situation is that all the heads of the institutions are in a rush to complete the syllabi. And if a child does not know the letters and the numbers, how are we going to proceed further with our teaching learning scenarios? There was a question in the last, when the last speaker was, kind of making his comments about the writing skills. Now, see, these skills cannot come overnight. So we have to do, brick by brick, you have to build it up, and then eventually see that how best can we bring in the principles, the maxims, all those things which are practically feasible and possible, so that eventually the whole objective is to ensure that there is good learning. All of us have been listening from the morning, and we do understand, and we kind of appreciate as well that in the present times, we all, to a large extent, are dependent and would require blended learning. So we have cross-curriculum teaching, wherein we have to have, integrated teaching, inquiry-based learning, project-based, project work, discovery learning, and then the problem-based learning. There is also a requirement, and there is also a usage of the flipped classroom. Then we have to have differentiated instruction for our different learners. Cooperative learning structures can be thought of, and integrated technology. But you see, let's analyze what is the grassroots reality. The reality is this, that when the curriculum is designed, when the curriculum is planned, it is planned in isolation of pedagogy, methodology. Therefore, the teachers are left to whatever they deem fit in a given situation or a given scenario. I understand and I do appreciate that we may not have all kinds of facilities available in all situations if there is a prescriptive kind of a thing with regard to pedagogy and methodology. But then, why cannot there be some insertions in the curriculum per se, wherein adjacent or next to every unit or the part of the syllabus, there is some mention of, things like blended learning, flipped classroom, differentiated instruction, or it is problem solving, reflection, critical thinking, creativity. These words are, kind of being just debated and discussed in different forums, different platforms. But the sooner these conferences, seminars, symposia, conclaves, discussions get over, possibly a large majority of us think that that was there in the training. We do not have to execute the same at the grassroots level. So while formulating the curriculum the next time, these are not there. These possibly are missing. But, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners, we all know that with this National Education Policy 2020, with the policy comes the implementation as well, which does talk about the processes which need to be put in place so that the policy does not merely remain a policy document. It has to be actually put into action. The sooner the better. And for that, some states, some regions, some areas have already taken a lead by organizing various programs in this particular way, wherein the main thrust of this policy is being discussed, and also people are trying to understand how best can they implement the same in their own situations, in their own scenarios. Now, there are many challenges. I wouldn't like to repeat, though I have in my kind of presentation, but I would like to repeat that all of us understand that the challenges are, the biggest challenges in the present time is the role of a teacher has become multiple. What was being earlier done by the informal, the non-formal agencies is now being expected of the formal agencies. So at the present, in the present times, all of us are hard pressed because our teaching never comes to an end. Especially in the COVID-19 times, students sometimes want some kind of a suggestion, maybe late in the evening, on a holiday, or any other day. So we have multiple roles to play. Therefore, I think the challenge is that how is it that we can make our students, like was kind of recommended by Professor Mukhopadhyay, there has to be a lot of space for peer learning. Why cannot a student be asked to understand the problem of another student in a same class or maybe in a different class, and then look for possible solutions? And as teachers, as navigators, as I would say friends of the children, we need to just give them the direction by doing some kind of hand holding, and then they will be in a position to realize the objectives. They'll be in a position to solve the problems, and the solutions which come from children, from the grassroots level, I'm sure will be very practical and will have the goals which can be achieved in much lesser time. They'll be more fruitful. We cannot, kind of have the same curriculum for everyone. So we need to, I think, look at the challenges very carefully so that these challenges are addressed in the context of the situations that we are in. A challenge in one particular region may not essentially be a challenge in another region. It may be an opportunity. So therefore, we have to see that how do we unfold, how do we understand the challenge? And at the same time, I would also like to make a mention here of the best practices. Like I have already shared that I do some work with the rural, children in the rural locations. Now, there are many best practices which are not being shared. So sharing of these best practices, I'm sure, can enlighten the students, the teachers, the policymakers, the planners, the parents, the community, everyone. Because what may not actually work in a given situation, right? But if we have a success story, maybe we get some keywords, because that success story comes from a particular place, right? That can be contextualized, but that will just give us an idea. Instead of, kind of trying to see that how best can we look into the solutions by following what is written in our curriculum, that may not actually solve our problems. So I think we have to also address to the individual needs and see how best can we create situations for our students wherein they will be in a position to learn in a better way. At the same time, we have to see that as teachers, we have to continuously motivate and encourage our students. We have to support a culture of evidence as well. I also remember, like what was being said earlier by Professor Mukhopadhyay, that after having done my B.Ed and M.Ed and of course MPhil, when I was given the first time the opportunity to teach at the postgraduate level, so the same head of the department came the first day, and you will be surprised. I'm sure you will not be surprised. So he said to me, Renu, what was taught to you during the training program has not to be put into practice in a classroom. For example, he said, you don't have to plan your lessons. You don't have to make use of the resources like we talk about the teaching learning material. Of course, at the postgraduate level, we don't do that. But there is a lot that needs to be planned and, kind of prepared when we talk about the hierarchy. So he said, don't do any of those teacher training, specialities, don't try them in your classroom. So like the response of Professor Mukhopadhyay, I also said, yes, sir, I think I'll try and do that. But later on, I went to the head of the department and I did tell him that, sir, it's because you all have taught me. I would want to see how these practices can actually be converted into reality in a classroom at different stages. So past 25 years, I would like to share that I'm using those strategies. I have a great sense of satisfaction and pride in sharing that most of these practices, like I said, use these words, need to be contextualized, individualized, have to be pragmatic. We have to see that there are possible outcomes because none of us can work in vacuum. So I think we need to also understand the professional development and support that can be provided side by side. So sharing of content, the applicative nature, and then we have to see to what extent can we also address the emerging ethical challenges that come our way. It's become a very big issue. Everybody's talking about ethics, and I think to some extent we all need to understand is to because that's a very larger debate. But then still, that can be in the domain of being looked at as a challenge, as a problem that we have in the 21st century. So the academic technologists, their role also has to be, understood. There are numerous more challenges. I wouldn't like to talk about them at this juncture. I understand that we have the paucity of time. But I would also like to mention here that if we want to develop lifelong learners in our classrooms, we need to be lifelong learners ourselves. I would like to say that it's very important for any teacher. Now, we all are like that we become the learners first. It is we who have to first adopt and adapt to the constructivist approach. The magnitude of constructivism will, of course, vary. But then what is important is that we have to see that we convert all these things into reality. And the sooner we do this, I think the more comfortable we would be. So the new education policy 2020 has a lot to say with regard to the challenges, with regard to the difficulties, the practical possibilities, the way forward, the implementation process, and also how best can the different agencies be engaged in, be roped in. It talks about philanthropy. It talks about the roles to be played by the NGOs, by industry, by academia, by policymakers. I mean, everybody on board, all stakeholders. So I'm sure very soon we will have a very different pragmatic kind of, I would say, educational pattern being seen all over the country. We, all of us, understand that the models that we see abroad, be it Australia, be it Finland, are very interesting. But then these are models in those countries. We are living in India. We are maybe in a small place in West Bengal or a village in Jammu or Ladakh. So I think it's very important for us to understand these things. I end my speech here by just, mentioning a last quote by Albert Einstein, and I quote him: "I never teach my pupils. I only provide the conditions in which they can learn." I unquote. At the same time, I would like to place on record my gratitude and sincere thanks to all the panelists, the organizers, and congratulate them for organizing this webinar and making me part of this particular webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. We have thoroughly enjoyed your engaging session, your engaging speech. There are a few questions that the few of the participants have asked you. Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So there is a question from. Just a minute, madam. Okay, there is a question from Bhumika Khanjilal. The question is, since we have fast learners and slow learners, if how to bring about a comprehensive and consolidated way of learning for all kinds of students?
You see, I would start by saying that there is nothing called as difficulty. It is there in the heads that we have, right? So the different learners that we have, the diversity that we have, that's what I said, individualized learning, that needs to be addressed. And if we try to see as to what works in one situation, may not essentially be working. At the moment, what we are doing is that there are difficulties with the learners, there are problems at the learning levels, but we expect everyone to follow the same formula, the same routine. That is where we are going wrong. So as teachers, we have a greater role to play than the policy and the curriculum.
Thank you. The next question is from Manam Srinivasulu. The question is, due to limited availability of technological devices in rural areas, it is difficult to conduct online classes. Is there any remedy to overcome this barrier?
Yeah, you see, very interesting. I will tell you what I did is that most of the students, I teach in University of Jammu, so we have a large number of students who come from rural background in areas which have, I think, no access to nothing, I would say like that. But still, everybody has a phone. At least there is one phone in every family. So what I did was that I made use of the messages and the WhatsApp. And with the help of messages and WhatsApp, I think I was more satisfied in comparison to some of my colleagues, large number of my colleagues who were making use of other techniques or other, kind of mediums or platforms. Even if you make videos, students cannot download them. So I think messages can, work a lot. And if you are not very far, maybe you can, engage with the children in the rural settings through the peers. That is very important. And please take on board the family of the child as well. So we are leaving the family. We are saying community engagement, but we are not engaging them. So there are, all these things that we can do.
Okay, madam. So there is a question from Rizal Mullah, one of our organizing team members. He asked, do you think that to have a proper apprehension, we should emphasis on the dialectical or regional language to make a successful implementation of sign, signifier, and signifier theory of socio?
I think what you're talking about is the regional language. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. That is what the thrust of NEP 2020 is. Whatever you teach, it has to be right from the school to higher education. It has to have the regional language, the local language. So it's very important.
Okay. So another question is from Shonchita Ghosh, one of the participants from our YouTube live. She asked, how will an English medium teacher remove the fear to speak in English of a Bengali student?
Yeah, you see, the best is the translation method. It will make the child and the teacher very comfortable. I tell you, even in higher education, when students are not able to understand, yeah, whatever, Dogri, English, whatever, and then you will be more comfortable. So I think it's basically the jargons, the language per se is not difficult, but the nuances of the language make it very difficult.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to ask a question to you
Yes.
that I have faced myself. That we have said that do not rush with the syllabus.
Yeah.
But after the what should I say? After the CBCS system, there is a 6 month period, and the texts are many. So it is very difficult for us if you go into details. We may not finish all the texts, and if we just sum it up or skim over those texts, we cannot go into details. So there is a gap. So what should I do, or what should the teachers do in that aspect to complete the syllabus as well as give a holistic understanding to the students as well?
Yeah. So what I would suggest is that something which I have also been doing. So I follow something called as the problem solving and project method. The problem is whatever I have learned till today, from right from school to the higher education, I am only implementing the same at the grassroots level. So I, kind of blend mix the two. So I give small questions to my students, ask them to prepare these questions, make very small groups, say 4 or 5 students in one group, and only one of them will volunteer to speak, but the next time the same student will not speak, it will be somebody else. So in my class, everybody gets an opportunity to speak, number one. Number two, the work gets divided, the syllabus gets completed, and then they are contributing also. The problem is, as teachers, we want to complete everything ourselves. No, we have to trust, we have to build that confidence, and we also have to, kind of have that faith that the student knows much more. You remember what Professor Marmar Mukhopadhyay said? Our learners are very smart, but because they look at us with such eyes and such looks on their face, that we become very compassionate. Poor, students, they'll not be able to do this or that. But I think with little hand holding, they will do much more. And please engage their parents and their family members. That's what I do. Everybody has to participate.
Ma'am, another question is that being an English teacher in a rural area, it is a I face students who are actually the first generation learners, and they are from a background where English language or any other second language is not known to them, and they took English honors, thinking that they will learn the grammar, and when they come, there is something else what they have thought after before choosing this stream, this on as English as honor subject. So the problem is that we cannot. There is only one process left, that is spoon feeding. They mug up some notes and put that in their answer script and pass out the exam. So this is a huge problem for the teachers, especially English teachers. So is there anything that we could do to improve that, to solve that problem and make the students benefited from the teaching of the second language they are learning very first time, or they're learning extensively for the first time?
Yeah. So see, if I was in your place, what I would do is that I would immediately go. I mean, like, not in pandemic times. Go does not mean that physically go. I would contact the teachers teaching at the middle level, the high and the higher secondary level, and tell them that please do not teach because I have to take this initiative for my students. I will not wait for any government policy or program to come and help us. So I will tell the teachers, please teach English as a skill. Language is a skill, it's an art, it's not a subject. So what we do is we ask funny questions in language, and then whatever is the practical work after every chapter in in the English subject, or that English that we have, the emphasis is again not on the activities which say drill karo, isko repeat karo, rhythmic words and all these things, create a poem, write this. We don't do that. Believe me, if you do that, me and you, if we meet again after 6 months, you will tell me that this is working. So because I have done it myself, so it does work. The only thing is sensitize the teachers at that level, and we also have to kind of shift our roles and responsibilities and adjust to the gears, different gears. We cannot always have a smooth kind of a drive in the same gear. The gears have to be shifted by the teachers in every scenario, in every situation.
Thank you very much. Due to there are many questions, but due to lack of some time, we cannot take all of them. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much
Thanks a
for
lot.
giving
Thanks a
us
lot.
for giving. We are privileged to listen to you, and we know many other things that, or we understand the system better, the education system better after your speech. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Mm.
Thanks.
So let us move on to our next section segment, that is the summing of the session by the chairperson. So I would like to request the chairperson of the session, Dr. Subhas Vishwas, the Honorable Principal of BHK Mahavidyalaya, to please sum up some of the session. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible. You are audible.
Okay. After long deliberations by eminent speakers, we have been enriched. Actually, it is not my area to officially technically sum up the session, because it is speeches from the specialists, and specialists need to know description, it is spoken by themselves. We have had many papers. Professor Mukhopadhyay started the actually with the factors that learning and environment of the 21st century, and similarly at the same time the Professor Kaul has analyzed the history of their learning, and Professor Mighty and Professor Nanda is rather taken up the current situation. Professor Nanda even spoken the new education policy 2020. So we have rounded up. We have enriched a lot from all the speakers. Those who have discussed about the learning environment for the long period, and what we are going to observe in the near future, we have been understood from the analysis too. It is been analyzed by all of them that such an analysis requires a cross-disciplinary discussion. Though it is under the Department of Education, but it has been a cross-disciplinary, as I have seen the participants, the discussions, the questionnaire made by the teachers, they are from different disciplines. So cross-disciplinary approaches have become very clear from this analysis. For the students, it has been a situation of dilemma. They have to compete against the world. At the same time, they have to cooperate with the people from around the world to maintain the world. So the process of both the competition and cooperation is going on, and the student has to make themselves prepared for this. So we are having a very great challenge to how to become a learning institution, a true learning institution. It is not the students, but the greatest challenge we face is how to encourage our institutions of higher learning to become the learning institution themselves. In case it is known to everybody else that the learning institutions are of different types, of different grades, of different cadres, of different studentship, of different scholarship. But the goal is same, to actually make oneself sustained in this critical world. So we have to compete with the world, and we have to prepare ourselves from different perspectives. In the entire discussion, we have a very punctual analysis by eminent speakers. What Professor Mukhopadhyay started needs no discussion, because it has been our eye opener. And Professor Kaul has given our the experience from the outside, from Australian experiences also, and Professor Nanda and Professor Mike has given the Indian dilemma, Indian analysis, particularly Professor Nanda has analyzed her experiences of the college days, of the university days, when she was a student. So in this way, we have been enriched. The seminar was, the webinar was a very much very current one, and I hope that we have enjoyed it. We have learned a lot, and the day ahead, tomorrow, we will have a very good gut lesson also, very good papers we will have, and from this discussion, we have learned a lot, and we will apply it whenever we meet for college, not offline, online, other offline, when we will meet each other, we'll actually percolate our ideas, and we will reciprocate that what we have learned from this webinar, and we will discuss it. I hope that those who participate from the out of the state, they have been enjoyed also, and I, though it is not my part, even then I convey my heartiest thanks to all of them who have participated in this. I hope that the organizers will continue it for tomorrow also, and for today's purposes, the organizers have done their lot. I must thanks to Ashish, to Orgo, to Sumita, of the Department of Education specifically, apart from other departments also. They have done a lot. good initiative. I must convey my heartiest gratitude to ICSSR for their funding. I hope that all of you can enjoy. Thank you all. Thank you from my heart.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for beautifully summing up the session from the position of from your chair. Uh, Now let us move on to the next segment, that is the vote of thanks. I now would like to request the convener of the webinar, Professor Orghodeep Paul, to give his vote of thanks to the audience and the speakers and others. Over to you, Professor Orghodeep Paul.
Thank you, Ashish. Respected Chairperson Dr. Subhash Bishwas, Honorable Principal BHK Mahavidyalaya, distinguished speakers present in the virtual platform, all the participants and my dear students, a very good afternoon to all of you. It's my proud privilege to propose vote of thanks on this very special program of ICSSR-ERC sponsored Today International Webinar on Learning Environment for the 21st Century, Issues and Challenges. I take this opportunity to express a gratitude to Dr. Subhash Bishwas, Principal of Bamanpukur Humayun Mahavidyalaya. He is also the chief patron of this program. And we really thankful to him for his continuous support and guidance to conduct the program. I convey my sincere thanks to Professor Mormor Mukhopadhyay, former professor and director, National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, New Delhi, and presently chairman of Educational Technology and Management Academy, for his excellent keynote speech. Although perhaps he has left the meeting and for some other important engagement, we definitely send our gratitude and acknowledgement to Professor Mukhopadhyay. He is not only the keynote speaker and but from very beginning of the program, he has continuously guided us through his advice related to organization of such webinar. I again convey my thanks to Professor Mukhopadhyay for his presence in the webinar. I also thankful to Professor Rekha Kaul, Dean International, Faculty of Humanities and Associate Professor, School of Education, Curtin University, Perth, Australia. Professor Kaul has a great and versatile experience to study the learning environment globally. And today she shares some of this experience with us. Madam, your presence today in this webinar a great source of motivation to all of us. I convey my heartfelt thanks and pranam to Professor Nimaichand Maiti, former professor and head, Department of Education, University of Calcutta, for his continuous support in this program and to share his view and experience with us. I convey my sincere thanks to Professor Renu Nanda, Professor and Dean, Faculty of Education, University of Jammu, India. Professor Nanda has more than 25 years of experience, a lot of experience of research in different fields of education like technology of education, primary and higher education, gender, non-formal education, and educational administration and governance. And I am really thankful to Professor Nanda for sharing her experience with us. I also thankful to all the respected participants who has made the day of the webinar a grand success. It's our privilege that we get a huge number of participants throughout the India and it's really a great source of motivation for all of us. I also convey my thanks to ICSSR Eastern Regional Center for providing the financial assistance to organize such program. At last but not the least, I convey my heartfelt thanks to all the members of the organizing committee. Specifically, I want to take name Professor Sumita Chatterjee, HOD, Department of Education, Professor Ashish Bishwas, the technical director of this program, and also assistant professor of Department of English, BHK Mahavidyalaya, and other member of the organizing committee, Professor Madhu Srivastav, Professor Nasiruddin Mondol, Professor Rejaul Molla, Professor Shivnarayan Verma, Professor Meenakshi Bishwas, Dr. Runa Das Chaudhuri, and Professor Debraj Hawladar, and our dear students who worked very hard for last couple of weeks to conduct the program a success. So many thanks to all of you to be with us. Thank you very much. Over to Professor Bishwas.
Thank you very much. Um, so before we end the program, I would like to make an announcement that the no feedback link will be provided today. The feedback link will be provided tomorrow towards the end of the session. So with due permission from the chairperson, of the session, Dr. Subhas Vishwas, the Honorable Principal of PHK Mahavidyalaya. I now formally conclude the first day of the webinar. Thank you all. We shall meet on the next day, that 27th 7th September 2020 at 10:30. Till then, bye bye. Thank you. Before that, please stay with us, all the participants in the Zoom meet, so that we can take a screenshot of the session. Please just put on your video so that we can take a screenshot. All please put on your video so that we can take the screenshot today. I think others have put on, so I'm taking a screenshot. Wait a minute. Thank you all. Thank you. We shall meet tomorrow. Helen Hardy. Thank you all. I'm staying here till the end, till you all left.